Welcome to the new IT. Here we are again, the new IT. What's going on today, Brad? Did I catch you off, or did we actually figure it out beforehand this time?
I think we might have figured it out this time. So I think we might have.
I jumped the gun. So I've been so yeah. Right. You gotta love it. December, it's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. Well, yeah, absolutely. I can't complain. So cool. Well, today we've actually brought in a guest. We brought in Johnny from JobNimbus.
Johnny from JobNimbus.
Absolutely.
So I'm excited to find out what JobNimbus. You just got to say that. JobNimbus.
Makes it fun, right?
That's a cloud, right? Job cloud.
Yeah, you nailed it.
There you
score.
Go. Look at that.
We're going to find out.
So yeah, I think they're doing some interesting things. So I'm going to let Johnny introduce himself and kind of tell us a little bit more about him and what all the fun things they're doing over there.
Yeah, let's find out what's going on. What's in Johnny's world.
Yeah, so I'm the VP of Product at JobNimbus, and I've actually just been there for a pretty short time, about 4 or 5 months, and the company really has been exploding this year. So most of the people on the team joined this year, and that's, I think, part of what's interesting.
How long has it been going?
So 8 years.
8 years.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah, I was bootstrapped until earlier this year and took first outside investment.
Nice.
And that's when things have just kind of really lit up.
Exploded.
Yeah.
That's
so
awesome.
They've worked their butt off to get to that point, and now that's paying off.
Yeah, I mean, now there's a whole new set of problems and things we got to do. But
right.
Higher quality problems is what we say, right? They're higher quality problems.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, help me understand. I mean, what is JobNimbus? What are you guys doing? What makes you feel like you guys are being disruptors in the industry?
Yeah, and really, like to answer that question, I'd love to kind of frame up 2 ways I think about the definition of disruptor.
Okay.
Ooh,
I like
this is going to be good.
Yeah, I think one is just relevant to technology in general, but also helps explain JobNimbus. So the first definition is kind of the school of Clay Christensen, right? Where a disruptor, there's a company in a market that is got a kind of more expensive product, and they have more features and functionality than even the market really needs. So then a new entrant comes in, less feature functionality, lower price, and they undercut and start to steal away the lower end of the market. And they disrupt the incumbent company and create kind of a whole new technology solution. So you think of like in the real estate market, with the traditional business model, there's a company, Homey.
I knew that's where you were going.
Exactly.
So they've come in with flat rate pricing, some do-it-yourself technology solutions that have disrupted the existing market. So that's the first.
My divorce too, same kind of thing.
Yeah, our divorce.
Yeah, our divorce. My divorce, your divorce.
Yeah,
our
everybody's
divorce.
divorce.
Right. Yeah.
Then the second definition, the way I think about it, is a market where it's like changing the way that the companies in that market think about and engage with technology. So it'd probably be an underserved market where they don't have a lot of technology that currently exists, and it's bringing technology into that underserved market. And that's what JobNimbus does. So we have disrupted. We're starting really in the contractor space, like the home contractor space.
So that would be kind of like and I apologize, just to put it into perspective, kind of like Uber. Disrupting how this is. Or is that still?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of a different technology, isn't it? I mean, I don't know. I'm trying to wrap my head around your definition of disruptor.
Yeah, Uber could kind of go both ways, because you could argue that taxis were more expensive and kind of this archaic business model. Mm-hmm. Uber came in less expensive than a taxi and undercut them. Mm-hmm. On the other side, you could say, here's a market that doesn't have any technology. You have to go flag a taxi cab down and pay with cash, and now they've brought technology to change the whole industry. So they kind of can fit into both, which I think is why they have like exploded. Because if you hit both, then you've struck gold. And for us, we're in a market that is 75% of the businesses in our market use pen and paper to run their business, or spreadsheets, but we call it pen and paper.
Okay.
So they do not have technology.
Who is your market? So home contractors, specifically home exteriors. So roofers, solar, window siding, gutters, those are kind of currently our core market. And really, you could expand this to any home contractors, but our focus right now is the home exteriors. You got to start in a niche.
You got to start,
exactly.
We're a vertical software, right? And so then we'll expand over time.
All of the successes that we've had on the show understood that well.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That niche, you've got to be in that niche.
Yeah, I mean, you either serve your niche really well and tailor it to them, or you're horizontal and your model is built to be horizontal. We're vertical, we're niche, we're trying to focus and nail that niche.
Awesome.
And what it sounds like, I mean, so I met with Jared over there, and since we're both in the recruitment space, and he kind of walked us through everything, and I think what you guys are doing is awesome. I mean, I think it's really needed in that industry. I mean, the vision of where you guys are trying to go with literally being able to have a contractor, you know, who's doing your roof, be able to order supplies right then and there with your partners, and then get everything signed and sealed and have it be delivered. That's amazing.
So it's absolutely a disruptor in that space right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, most of our customers literally come over from using pen and paper, like I mentioned. And so we're teaching them not just about, we're teaching them technology in general, not just JobNimbus, but how do they engage with technology and how do they use it to be more efficient, to create a better experience for their customers. So we change everything about how they view their business and about how the industry works.
Wow.
It's awesome.
So let me just, to understand the technology, so the way it was in the past, a contractor comes and they had you sign a contract or something, or maybe they didn't even do that. They just said, hey, we're going to go fix your siding or whatever, and they did it, and then you gave them a check at the end of the day, right? And they went and bought the product. And so what does it look like with JobNimbus?
Yeah, so
what's the difference?
To extend your analogy of what you're describing, this actually happened with one of our customers. Before they came over to us, they wrote down one of their customer names or a lead on a napkin, piece of paper in their car. It was a $10,000 project. Driving down the freeway, the wind blows through, takes the piece of paper out the window. He lost a $10,000 job. Like
literally out the window.
Out the window. And so that's the old school way, right? The new way is you have a customer relationship management system that stores all your contacts, has all of the history.
That's a part of JobNimbus.
That's a part of JobNimbus. So that's kind of at the core, is store all of your contacts, all the interactions, but then manage the whole flow of the project from when that person first reaches out to you to when you do an estimate and then do all the stages of the project to when you get payment and close it out. So it's all managed in JobNimbus electronically, off of pen and paper, off of spreadsheets. So that's kind of the core, is the workflow and the customer management. And then there's product ordering that layers on top of it, like you mentioned. There's all kind of the invoicing and the payment components, and a lot of different technology that we're adding on top of that core project management.
So there's I like to get a clear picture. So there's a lot of CRMs out there. There's a lot of base CRMs. I could name 100 of them, right? What's different? Why not just go with start any old CRM and have a customer relationship management product? Why use JobNimbus? What's the difference? And I think I know, but I want to ask you.
Yeah, well, a big part of it comes back to being vertical software. Like, there's a certain way
that's what I figured.
Yeah,
you guys know, because that's the thing I hate about CRMs now, is it's catch-all for everything and everybody, and it's so convoluted, and there's so much there. I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, exactly.
I put some stuff in, and then what?
Yep.
So
yeah,
anyway,
because they're trying to create a generic product that can work across,
multiple
200
verticals, exactly.
500 verticals.
This is smart, because I can. I want one.
You can start a roofing company.
Yeah, except I don't have an outside. Dang it! Can you do it for IT services? That would be
Yeah,
well,
here we go.
We'll set our sights on that sometime in the future. Right? Put that in the queue.
There you go.
So it's we see that it's a disruptor. How would you say it's innovative? I know those two words are kind of the same, but it's a little bit different. There's a nuance there. How would you say you're innovative? Because there are a lot of CRMs out there. Now you're doing your own vertical, but what would you say is innovative about JobNimbus?
So there's kind of a couple of macro aspects, and then I'll give a couple examples of features that we're doing that I think are innovative. So the first piece is historically truly innovative technology is available either to consumers, like the bleeding edge of technology doesn't happen necessarily in small, medium businesses, right? Like it happens with consumers and it happens with the large companies, because the cost to develop this stuff is just so expensive, and you need a big payout and right away. So consumers and enterprise companies typically provide that payout. So what happens to SMBs is they get left behind. Like, they don't get great solutions. Mm-hmm. And take like Salesforce. Like, they started with CRM. They're the pioneer of the modern CRM up market.
Yep.
And they had all this investment in R&D, and they went and got $100,000 $1 million contracts to fund that R&D.
So one of the innovations is we bring those solutions that typically would exist for the enterprise big companies. We bring it to SMBs. We bring it to local, small, medium businesses. Like bring technology to roofers that they would never have otherwise.
Nice.
So in that aspect, we're not truly like creating new innovation, but we're bringing it to a market that doesn't have it.
Never had it before.
Yeah.
Similar to how we are disrupting the market, right?
It's kind of like YouTube for creators.
Yeah.
Used to be a creator didn't have an outlet really. They had to go make a movie somewhere or something. But YouTube has created all these crazy outlets for all these amazing people that never would have had the opportunity to use.
And they're not necessarily developing like bleeding edge technology to do that.
No.
They're just making it accessible to a market
Exactly.
that didn't have it.
Yes.
The other aspect, and this is where it gets trickier for us because this is actually very hard to do, is to find the balance between being simple enough that somebody can come in and use it immediately and get value, and it's customizable enough that the person that is much more complex and has more processes can adjust it and customize it to what they need. Because typically things that are simple are not customizable, and things that are customizable are not simple.
Very true.
That is probably the biggest challenge for most software developers. And in your space, I would think there's a lot of contractors out there that are opposed to technology, or at least not, they're not geeks.
Yeah, they're not technically savvy.
I swing a hammer. I hate dealing with my phone. Is that, gosh, how do you deal with that? How do you find that fine line between this bleeding edge and getting it so they can use it?
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. Like a lot of the industry, they're not super tech savvy. They've got a real good skill set, but they're not IT guys, right? Mm-hmm. And some of this is aspirational for us. Like we don't do it as good as we want to do it, but the way that we approach it is let's just give them access to the things they need right out of the gate. Like don't give them everything at once. Give them the things that getting a contact in and doing some simple things.
Perfect.
And then you kind of hide the more advanced customization so they don't get confused by it. But they can go find it and they can build it out and customize it to how they need it should they want to do that.
That right there is hugely innovative, because so many times you get sold to by the sales rep, and the sales rep tells me, Bobby, this will do 400 different things. It does this, it does this, and I'm like, dude, I needed to do 3. I needed to do 3 all the time, really good, and never screw up. I could care less about the 397 other things.
Yeah, and this is exactly another great point of the difference between small, medium business and how they buy and what they buy versus enterprise. An enterprise, they try to buy solutions, right? Like they want to buy the 400 features and they want to solve all these problems. A small, medium business, a roofer, a local business person, they have a problem. They have a very specific problem and they need to solve a problem. And if you try to come at them and solve 30 problems, they get overwhelmed and it frankly doesn't help them. Nope. You just need to solve their one problem or their 2 problems.
Yep. And that's your guys' whole focus. I love that. I think that is insanely innovative just in itself, because everybody tries so hard to be everything to everybody and they miss the boat.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Cool.
And then a couple of quick examples of like practical ways that we're innovating. One is around automations. So this gets into like technology that is kind of for the big boys that we can bring down to SMB. And so we have a number of automations that fire off when you set one thing in the product. So let's say you have a new customer and you set them as a new lead in the system. You can set up automations that will have a sequence of emails that go to them, that will create tasks for other employees, that will do a number of things. So instead of you having to do 15 things, you do one and the other things happen for you.
Which triggers it.
Because the other thing that small businesses, they don't have a lot of people and they don't have a lot of time.
No.
And so they need that efficiency of automation. But it's got to be simple enough that they can consume it.
Wow. Yeah, there's a fine line there.
Absolutely. There really is. So I know I was actually in your guys' offices, like I said, about a month ago. But one thing I thought was really cool from an employee standpoint, don't you guys actually walk like your employees through like what the contractors are actually doing? Because I thought I saw like some roofing examples and things like that you guys have in your office.
Yeah, we do. It's actually super cool, and it starts with our mission statement is make contractors heroes. So it's this whole hero's journey, and we put the customer at the middle of it. And as part of that, for a new employee starting, we take them, it's called a learning lab. We take them through the experience that a contractor or a roofer has without JobNimbus and then with JobNimbus. So there's 2 desks set up for an office admin as if they work at the roofing company, and you sit down and you're like picking up the papers and you're looking at the Post-its, and then there's actually a roof that you go inspect the roof just like our customers do.
Right.
And then there's a little table where you then have to sell somebody as they would a homeowner on what they should buy
Using
with
the product
roof.
the whole time.
Well, first you're doing it without the product.
So they do both.
And so you're experiencing it, what life is like without JobNimbus, and you very quickly realize it's a disaster. Like folders and files of paper, you're digging through stuff, a myriad of Post-it notes, and like how do you keep it all straight?
Well, and like I said, I mean, from that standpoint, I love the fact that you're actually training your employees that, hey, this is what our customer has to go through. So we need to understand them, and maybe this can help us be more innovative and help us understand, hey, maybe they need this feature, or maybe they would like this feature. So I love the fact that you guys are doing that.
Yeah, because I mean, it's not practical to hire only people that have been in the contractor space, right?
Exactly.
And so we give them like a little bite of what it's like to experience their life, even just for a moment, so they can have some empathy and be able to,
exactly,
kind of talk to them and relate.
I sense that there's maybe a founder's story behind this. Is there a reason that, I don't know who the founders are of the company, but is there a reason they said, hey, there's a need here? Did they were they a contractor? Did they, go through some nightmares? I'm just curious. Is there a story behind that?
So, I mean, there might be even more of a story than I'm aware of, but kind of my perspective is our CEO, Ben Hodson, who's one of 3 co-founders, but this is his 10th startup. So he's done this, 9 times before.
Yeah.
And in that process, he has like learned all the things not to do and some things to do. And so as he's put together JobNimbus, he's tried to kind of bring all of his learnings and best practices at play. And anytime you're at a company, you're like, oh man, how cool would it be to have that? Or like, next time, wouldn't it be amazing to do that? He's tried to kind of bring all of those things to play, and this learning lab is part of it, right? Like, how cool would it be to be able to have our employees experience what our customers experience? And so he brought that to life.
Wow.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
So let me ask you this. I mean, who takes care of your technology, and why should people, consider even working for JobNimbus?
Yeah, so there's really kind of 2 pieces to that. One is the side I'm on, which is our product that we build, the technology we build for our customers, right? And I'll come back to that. The other side is our internal technology and our IT team that keeps all of our employees up and running, and security and kind of all of that.
Right.
And they're awesome. On my side, like the growth, that's like really where the growth is happening. There's the product managers, product designers that figure out what should be built, what it should look like. And then there's the software engineers that bring the stuff to life. And quality assurance folks that make sure it's functioning properly and deal with kind of when there's bugs and things. And they are an incredible team, and it's really the lifeblood of a business like ours. We are a product company.
Yeah.
We have to build stuff and build tools and make it better and better to solve the problems for customers and to be able to grow as a business. And so we're constantly hiring. And we believe in kind of this hybrid or kind of local market approach to staffing. So we have a couple people outside of our local market, but most folks are local, so that they can come in the office and whiteboard and brainstorm when they need to, and then they can work from home remote and like go heads down when they need to do that as well.
Awesome.
That's cool. It's interesting to see the world change. I mean, we're talking about the new IT and new technology, and coming into the office and brainstorming and connecting isn't over. Companies are there's still a lot of value there, right? Is that what I'm hearing? Because I believe that.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the, as you'd ask about our, kind of founder and some of those origin stories, originally JobNimbus was set up as 100% remote. There were no offices. And the founders and the executive team at the time found that just things weren't quite clicking the way they wanted them to click.
Interesting.
And so then they said, we're going to pivot and we're going to do all in office. And they did that, and things changed dramatically.
That's interesting.
They saw the synergy, they saw the communication, and then COVID hit, which then created a hybrid model. And that's where we're really settling in, because the reality is you can't hire a developer if you say you have to be in the office every day of the week, all hours of the day. They don't want to do that anymore. Or like I was talking to a product designer, and he's like, I do my best design when I can be at home in my space that's quiet and go heads down. So this hybrid model, but for sure being in person, creating the relationships, brainstorming, getting on a whiteboard, it's still super valuable and is really hard to replace.
So we like to talk about the future because that's a part of what the show is. What do you see the future of that? How do you see the future? Well, the future of JobNimbus. How do you see the technology and
Evolving.
the future? Yeah, evolving. Thank you, Brad.
I try every now and again.
That's the perfect word. How do you see it?
So a couple of things that are on our minds, on my mind, as I think about the future of the JobNimbus technology. The first concept is the 80-20 principle, or the Pareto principle, if you guys are familiar with that.
Absolutely.
And in like the most basic terms, in your house, if you were to do a heat map of the traffic patterns in your house, 20% of the carpet would have 80% of the wear, right? Like, and this is like over and over and over, they've shown this principle to be spot on. In the business world, typically, you hear that 20% of your customers drive 80% of your revenue.
Yep.
In the product world, it's 20% of your features drive 80% of the usage, or you could swap out value for usage, right? So 20% of the features, 80% of the value. So that's on one side. The other side is the product complexity curve, which you guys were kind of talking about earlier. So the idea with that is, as you build a feature, you create value for a customer, or else you wouldn't build the feature, right? So as we build like automations, that creates value for a customer. However, you get to a tipping point where you create too many features, too much complexity, and it actually creates less value. Every feature you add decreases the value after that point. So the curve bends back down. So then you bring the two things together, and the future of as we think about JobNimbus is, how do you avoid the tipping point of the complexity curve? And how do you use the 80-20 principle to do that? And what I mean by that is, if we're going to build something new, and let's say it exists out there in a point solution, they're doing something that we think we should bring to JobNimbus. Instead of building all the features of that thing, or building every feature we could imagine to solve the problem, let's find the 20%. Let's just build the most essential features that deliver most value, and let's stay on the upside curve of the value curve, of the product complexity curve.
I got to ask this. That sounds like common sense. How come companies don't do that? How come they try and pack so much crap? And you see it all the time. You're using a product, and you're like, wow, this is great, I love this. And then they do this release, and it's a bunch of crap, and it's bloated, and now it's all, and you don't use it anymore. Why don't companies, what you just said, everybody knows about the 80-20, I can't imagine who doesn't know about the 80-20 rule. Why don't companies do this? How come you guys figured it out?
Well, we're geniuses. That's why.
Geniuses.
Right. I think that a lot of it has to, and this starts to go deep into kind of product principles, right? Product development and things, but they listen to the wrong sources, or they listen to them in the wrong way. So if you have a product tech company and you get customers complaining about something, the knee-jerk reaction is, well, let's go solve that problem, let's go build that thing. Or you got your sales team saying, hey, we need this thing to close more deals, so you go build that thing. And you're just building features and features and features. And then you very quickly get to the bloat and the complexity. In isolation, you solved a problem for a customer, but on a whole, you just created more complexity and degraded the experience.
Yep.
So the right way to handle it is, okay, let's get all the inputs, let's prioritize these in a rational way and be willing to say no to things, and let's go with where the most value is. And sometimes the most value is don't do anything. And there's going to be that customer that's not going to be super happy, and that's hard. That's really hard to disappoint a customer, but if it is for the good of the entire base, then sometimes it has to happen.
That concept, for the good of the many, you got to...
For the greater good.
Businesses don't get that, I think, sometimes. And they put themselves in the ground.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think it's that they don't get it. I just think that they're trying to please everybody, and they're trying to have too many features to please everybody, where I think sometimes they just get out of their niche or what they're good at, and then it just spirals down from there.
The other part of it is, if as an individual contributor, if a product manager or a development team, what is success for them? Like they are created and they exist typically to turn out features. And if you judge them off of their feature output, you're going to have this problem, because you're going to have 5 teams, 10 teams, 15 teams that are going to be high velocity spitting out features. And so you have to find other ways to look at success, which could be retention, like how are we retaining customers, or how are we decreasing support tickets, or other ways to create value for these teams other than just spitting out new features.
This is good. This is really good information. I hope our listeners are grabbing onto this, because this is very powerful stuff. And it's the future. I mean, we're in this world of so much noise and so much bloatedness and so much stuff. The only way to get above it is to hone down, to get rid of the crap, right?
Oh, 100%. And really, like, one of the trends we're seeing, so a lot of like my lens and everything I've talked about is, business to business technology, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the trends we're seeing is the B2B technology is starting to have to kind of follow consumer technology trends. Meaning consumers, they typically don't put up with this kind of stuff. Like, they don't put up with feature bloat. And part of it is, with a consumer, the person paying and using is very often the same person. Mm-hmm. In the business world, it's usually a different person. The person paying and the person using are different people. So the person paying says, hey, I don't care if it's a pain to use. You go use it, because they're telling me it's going to save me money or grow my business. And that person using, they got hired and they don't want to get fired, and so they go use the stupid technology.
Halfway.
Yeah, halfway
Exactly.
at best. But that's changing. Like, I think we're being held more accountable, and people want to use technology like they do as a consumer. So you think of Instagram or Amazon, like, they create seamless interactions and user experiences in their products, and the consumers who are also business owners and the users of businesses, like, that's what they want. And I think that the future is for business, the B2B software, to feel more like consumer software.
Wow. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, you answered the question that I was going to ask, but yeah, I mean, I think that you're spot on. I really do believe that from a company perspective, you're just trying to do it because you're being told, hey, this is going to save me money. I need this, but you forget about what it takes and the implementation and all of that. So,
and we're getting more savvy too.
Yeah,
we as business owners, the small business owners, aren't the kind of stupid just go grab whatever's out there. They're getting savvy like the users. They know what they're doing a little bit. Wouldn't you say they're a little more knowledgeable about tech? We talk about that all the time, that technology is becoming ubiquitous and everybody knows it. It's not just the smart IT people, it's everybody now.
Yeah, and a big part of that is the shift of generations, right?
Yeah.
Like, as younger people take over, let's say roofing, as they take over their dad's business or whatever the situation might be, this younger generation comes in, they just inherently are more tech savvy. They grew up on it. So that's a big part of the shift.
So with that said, we like to ask the question. I know you were fixing to ask it. I'm going to go ahead and ask it. I think, what do you think the future of technology in general? I think you've touched on it quite a bit, but we like to ask this question. You're in the thick of your company, and you're dealing with it. What do you see the future of everything, technology in general? Is there something that jumps out at you?
Yeah.
Other than what you just said, which I think is a big piece.
I think it's a great, it's
a big piece.
Another one is integration, and I think there's kind of two aspects to this. One is integration of data. So I'll give you an example from a previous company I was at. This could be as simple as, I am a consumer and I need to call my dentist to get some work done, right? Well, instead of they answer the phone and I've got to tell them my name, my date of birth, my social security number, my blood type, my mother's maiden name,
right.
you got to go through this whole thing. What if your data could just pop up on their screen, and based off your phone number, because you call them, they know who you are, they know the key information, they know your last appointment, and they can start interacting with you as a human because the data is integrated into their experience. So that's an example of data integration. I think that is a huge part of the future. And part of this is, with small businesses, do we even have access to the right data, and what can we do with that data? But that's a big part of the future. I think the other part of integration is the integrated product experience. So if for JobNimbus, for example, you can do a bunch of stuff in JobNimbus, but there's a bunch of other companies out there innovating and doing cool things. Well, what if you could bring the power of 15 different companies into the JobNimbus experience and not have to go to 15 different apps and 15 different places?
Yeah, I think being closed off, you as a developer, as a company, if you're trying to be everything for everybody and you're closing your data, you're closing your connectivity off, you're putting yourself out of business eventually.
Yeah,
in the future, we all are going to have to. I mean, Apple had to start to play nice and start to get on, Microsoft domains and stuff like that. I mean, you have to integrate with everything, or you're not invited to the party.
Yeah, you're not relevant anymore.
Yeah,
Exactly.
You get
you
left behind.
can't be, there is no longer the Rockefellers and, just the steel and just the oil folks. You're in this world of everything. And if you don't play, you don't play.
Yeah. Yep. And then another big one that like could be, hours of additional conversation in and of itself.
Oh, we love those.
Is AI. Right? AI and machine
Oh
learning.
my gosh, how many times have we talked about AI? It's a beautiful
Quite a
thing.
bit.
The thing that I think is particularly interesting is how does that play with small business? And I think we're trying to figure it out. Like, I don't know if a year or two ago, Google had a demo of a technology where as a consumer, I could use this artificial intelligence to schedule an appointment at a restaurant or a reservation at a restaurant for me. Did you guys ever see that
I think
demo?
that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it actually turned out that it wasn't a real live demo. They had, most good demos
Yeah.
are Jimmy rigged and they're
Exactly.
kind of fake.
Right.
And so you start to step back and you're like, well, like, do I want that? Like, do I want that as a small business and do I want that as a consumer? And
Because it takes away from the connection with the customer.
Exactly. So as a small business, in my opinion, a key differentiator against corporate business is the relationship.
Yeah.
Is
The
a
customer service.
personal connection, the customer service.
Yeah.
Like
Hands down.
Business happens in local businesses and in small businesses, human to human.
Yeah.
And so if you start to infuse artificial intelligence and machine learning in the wrong way, you've lost your whole competitive advantage.
So true.
But it doesn't
100%.
mean there's not a place. And I think that's what the future is yet to kind of figure out. How do we use it to create efficiencies in the right spots in that interaction, but not take away from the personal relationship?
Yeah, if the AI was super fun and happy and told me jokes while I was talking to him, maybe.
Yeah.
Right.
But you're right on the money. Coming from the technology space that I'm in, I tell clients a lot of times, you can go with this big giant company, but if we have a problem and we have to call support, we're on the phone for 45 minutes. But if we go with this local guy, I've got his cell number.
Yeah, he probably shows up at your office in 10 minutes.
Exactly. So that is a huge benefit that the small business has, I think, over the big box companies.
Enterprise companies.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think the script is yet to be written on how machine learning and AI best help small business. I think there's some things we're starting to figure out, but there's still a lot of future to happen there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. 5-6 years down the road, it should be interesting.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, personally, I think it's going to go more towards the fact that, I think it's going to help more on, hey, your busiest times are here. This is where you're going to want to staff more, kind of things of that nature. More to kind of be
Productivity
more
type of stuff.
Productivity / forecasting.
Understanding.
Yeah,
I agree with you. Like, for example, think of, so one of the things that's hard as, just anyone working in a business, but think of a small business owner. How can I best use my time? What's the best person I should reach out to as far as like what's the most valuable customer I could be spending time with? What's the next best action and when?
Yep.
Well, AI could tell us, here's the person that you should reach out to about this at this time because here's when they're most likely to answer the phone or to respond to a text or whatever.
Exactly.
Like, that is all stuff that AI totally can play a role in. Help optimize my day, my workflow, my priorities.
Agreed.
Yeah. Wow, this is good stuff. I think he's right. We could talk for hours.
I'm sure we could.
Well, we always could. Me
Right.
and
Absolutely.
we just. Thank you so much for being on the show, JobNimbus. People, check it out. Is there anything you can tell us about JobNimbus if people want to see? I know the website and stuff, but you got social, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, we've got all of it, right? Like all the social, all the everything. But one of the fun things we do is we do video job postings. So I'm actually filming one tomorrow for a product manager role that I'm opening up. So if people go on JobNimbus.com, go to the careers page, and most of the job postings, if not all of them, should have a video of the hiring manager just talking as a human about the role.
Well, that's different.
Love it.
Yeah, we've got great feedback from it. I actually had people that have reached out and said, hey, I was never interested in JobNimbus or that role until I saw the video, and that got me super interested, and they applied.
Wow, that is innovation from every side. I love it.
It's awesome.
So cool. Well, awesome. Any last words?
I'm good.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you guys. This is a
Super
blast.
good. We will see you next time for the new IT. Be ready.